Thank you for allowing me to share some thoughts. I have been asking the Lord to help me have a framework or a way to hold these times of confusion and sadness. And I was led to the story of Noah in Genesis, and particularly surrounding his time in the ark and immediately following his leaving the ark. So I thought it might be helpful to share some of those things with you. You know, Noah was in the ark for over a year, and the time in which he spent there was the same. The the place was the same. We don't record anything about no remodeling any of the ark or anything like that, and there probably wasn't room to make a whole lot of changes in where he and his family and the animals were living. And part of that leads to a feeling of sameness and a feeling of redundancy. And that can be very draining. And I believe it was draining for Noah. And in addition to that, living on a boat is not the most stable thing. You know, he wasn't on the ocean per se, but in a sense, he was on the ocean. And so there would be waves that would come and I believe could hit the ark and cause the ark to move. And, you know, if the animals weren't used to this, or if it was a particularly hard wave, for instance, it could cause kind of a panic among the animals or even among the people, his family. They may have just become weary of always getting hit with a wave. And the thing about those waves is the ark didn't have windows to look out and see where the wave was going to come from or if it was coming. And so there was just this idea of, even though I'm in a place, I don't feel safe, or there things can rocket around. And that's kind of like what we're facing with today. We can feel like we're in a safe place when we stay at home, but the events outside of us can really disturb and create waves in the way we're approaching life. And it can get very tiring, very frustrating. And I don't even know for sure, but given the behavior of his family after Noah left and before left the ark and before Noah had them go into the ark, I'm not sure they had the best relationship. And so all of those things, I think, led to some pretty stressful times, some pretty maybe heated times. I don't know. But all of those things are potentials. And the Bible doesn't give us all those details and things. But Noah was human. And I believe that being human, you're affected by the emotions and the situations and the circumstances around where you're living. And so for Noah, there was this time of being in a boat that he didn't know, it wasn't like moving in a certain direction. It was just kind of sitting there. And that can be very frustrating too. And that's another aspect of this quarantine and this pandemic is we don't know where we're headed, really. And we don't know what life is going to be like after we leave this pandemic. I don't know, even though if no one thought that he would get out of the ark. All of those things are just kind of parallels to our situation. But the book of Hebrews records Noah as a man of faith. And so I believe Noah had a strong relationship with God. And that's evidenced by the fact that the first thing that Noah did after he left the ark was build an altar and worship God. And in that worship of God, he put before God his gratitude and his praise and honor for what God had seen him through. And also, I believe that God had been with him through the whole thing. And so when I think about coming out of the pandemic, I think about the first thing I want to do is be like, have that heart of Noah, to be able to worship God, to be grateful to him, and to build an altar to him in the sense of being willing to go wherever he wants me to go and be yielded to him because he loves me. And the last thing I wanted to mention about Noah's story is the physical response of God. He gave Noah the promise, but he also physically created a rainbow, or he pointed out a rainbow. And the rainbow represents many colors. And I believe it was an invitation by God to see that his promise is beautiful. And that's why it was a symbol of the promise that God made, or the covenant God made with God. And it was an invitation for Noah to co-create and to do what God had provided in the form of colors to make the world beautiful again. And I believe that that's also going to be the invitation that God has for us as we move out of the situation of pandemic, that he's going to provide colors and he's going to provide us with resources to be able to make the world beautiful again. But it's up to us to choose that or receive that invitation and to encourage one another in that. So in the meantime, I believe there's some things that can be helpful in living in an ark. One is to know that you are not alone and that there are people who can help you and support you and encourage you, and we're all living in this together. And we are all facing the same situation, and maybe to varying degrees and varying degrees of difficulty, but everyone is facing the difficulty of uncertainty, of not really knowing what's going to happen next. And so we can be and dwell with one another in that, knowing that we know a God. We and if we've accepted Jesus, we have a personal relationship with the God who has all things in his control. So my encouragement to you that I believe the Lord gave to me was, I'm with you. And that being with you is meaning that nothing's going to make me go away. So hopefully some of these thoughts have been helpful. If not, I'd be happy to dialogue more with you. You can reach me at stan@westlight.org. In the meantime, just pray that God will let you know that he has not forsaken and he will never leave you because he loves you. Thanks for sharing this time with me.